Alright, so I did my best to try and stay away from the Battlefield 6 leaks, but they are just everywhere, being sent to me in my Discord DMs, posted on various Discord servers, including my own, all over my YouTube feed, so I simply caved and thought I would make a video talking about what we've been able to see via the Battlefield Labs footage that participants were able to get and quote-unquote share. For those of you who are newer to the channel, you probably will have never seen Battlefield videos from me before, unless you go back, as I have covered pretty much every Battlefield title since I started making content on YouTube, bar Battlefield Hardline. And yeah, some of them are pretty bad, the videos I mean. I have been a Battlefield fan for a very long time, clocking in an immense number of hours in the franchise as a whole, and Battlefield 4 being my preferred game amongst all of them. But let's get into everything that I was able to see from the footage that I've watched of Battlefield 6. Of course, I won't be putting any on screen because it is under NDA, and I don't particularly want to get flagged even if it's not my footage. So it is to note that any or all of this stuff that I'm talking about today and that we've seen is subject to change, as it is still early in testing. So a lot of the movement stuff from Battlefield 5 seems to make a comeback into the next Battlefield title, whatever that title may be, but you are also not locked into any long animations like you were in that specific title. So making the movement feel a little bit more dynamic and natural, I would imagine. Again, won't really know how it feels until I get my hands on it. We also got a glimpse at the ability to drag teammates to revive them in safety, as opposed to reviving them in the middle of a street, for example. Now, that's a feature that was actually promised, I believe, in Battlefield 5, but we just never got the actual feature delivered in that title. And then you have BattleBit Remastered, a 3-man dev team that managed to pull it off. And I absolutely love this feature in a combined arms video game like Battlefield, like BattleBit Remastered, because I mostly play as a medic, and obviously you don't want to necessarily revive somebody in the middle of a firefight or in line of sight of enemies. You'd ideally want to drag them, so that is very nice to see. We also got a glimpse at field specs. So these are class-specific character upgrades you can earn by getting XP during the match. So there's like 3 tiers that are passive, and then the last tier is an active upgrade to give you like a temporary boost of some kind. It's kind of a callback to what we had in Battlefield 4, but that was based off total squad XP if I remember correctly, and if the whole squad died, it would reset. But it's still an interesting concept nonetheless, but now it seems to be a lot more tied into your own personal performance rather than the overall performance of the squad which you are in. I personally hope none of these upgrades include armor plates that would increase your overall health. It just makes fight readability a lot more difficult in a game like Battlefield, where you would expect everybody to have the same health pool, allowing for very readable fights. Talking about fights, very good segue right here. There seems to be already more weapons than Battlefield 2042 at launch, which is good. And there also seems to be no weapon restrictions on a class per class basis. Now, again, this is all subject to change because obviously very early in testing, and they have quite a bit of time to fine tune all those balancing things up until launch. So it's very possible that they just unrestricted the weapons for all the classes right now, and that'll change in the future. The destruction seems to be pretty impressive, and overall I was just like, wow, this is awesome, being able to fire a rocket at a building and see all the rubble come crashing down. Now, the one thing that I wouldn't particularly want is to be able to level the entire map, which would absolutely get rid of all the cover. And we had this problem in past Battlefield games where if the match went on for too long, the map would just be leveled. There would just be nothing to use as cover, making the gameplay feel a little bit tedious. It also looks like armored vehicles have distinct health segments from the footage that was shown. Unsure as to how that will work. Probably you'll only be able to like self-repair up to a certain point, and then you'll need to go back to base or a repair station if there are some on the map in order to repair the remainder of the health. Vehicles also now only have limited ammo for their main weapons, which forces you to go back to base in order to resupply, albeit their secondary weapons do have unlimited ammo. And if I recall, Battlefield 5 had the same mechanic where you had to go back to resupply your main weapon, which I think is a very good overall system to have in place. It gives infantry a little bit of breathing room from constantly getting fired at by vehicles, and it also prevents vehicles from just camping in a hard-to-reach area and just firing down upon targets on the map without any hindrance at all, or sometimes a very little, and then not ever having to resupply, just making it like what we have in Delta Force, which is what I've been playing recently. You have vehicles just camping on top of a hill in the end cap, never needing to go back to base to resupply their main weapon. So yeah, very happy to see this in the footage. It also seems like you can pick up the kits of fallen enemies like we had in past Battlefield titles. Now, again, I don't recall what titles had this specific feature, but I know for a fact that Battlefield 4 offered this because my teammates, if I died, would often pick up my kit in order to revive me, as I more often than not played as a medic. The deploy screen, which we have seen in the footage because inevitably everybody dies while playing a Battlefield game, seems far better than what we have in Battlefield 2042. It also gives you the ability to ping on the 3D-ish map that you can see, and it also provides you with some sort of a camera feed to see where you're spawning and what's happening right there at that time. So if you're spawning on a teammate, or a squad mate rather, you'll be able to see what's happening on their end. And then if you want to spawn on a flag, you'll be able to see what's happening on that flag. Same thing for a vehicle, to prevent you from just spawning in and dying immediately, because nobody really likes that. There also seems to be actual squad management that can be done by the players instead of, just getting thrown into a random squad without being able to change, which is what we had in 2042 at launch. Now I believe in 2042 you can actually, lock your squad and actually change squads at your leisure, but that wasn't the case when the game launched. So hopefully this is something that the new Battlefield title launches with. The scoreboard also seems to be back, and hopefully they don't forget to include it on launch, because again, the Battlefield 2042 scoreboard at launch was just a head scratcher, to put it politely. So that's pretty much all I managed to see in the footage. If I comb through it again, I would probably notice a few other things here and there. But now I want to talk about a few things that came to mind of what I would like from the next Battlefield. So hopefully squad leaders are actually impactful and you can give orders, so squad play is improved. I'd love to see them be able to give out orders and encourage squad mates to follow the orders, and possibly even provide some kind of bonus XP towards their character upgrades, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. I just want to see them encourage team play rather than everybody playing as a lone wolf. I'd also love to see the Conquest game mode worked on or, iterated differently. Obviously, in the past, it has evolved a little bit where you now have to capture 3 flags in order to control the whole sector on the map. But, something they could do is possibly not let enemies spawn on the flag if it's being contested, which would make it so they have to spawn another flag and then push tactically towards that objective, and maybe even have some type of moving objective on certain maps like we had in Battlefield 1. If I recall correctly, there was a train that had an actual objective on it, which is an interesting twist to the classic Conquest game mode. Also would love to get back the ability to simply grab ammo and health off friendly players instead of begging for it and just never getting the ammo or health you want or need. Unless, of course, there's resupply stations across the map, then this is a moot point, but it would still be nice to have. Would also love for them to not follow suit and include SBMM in the game like we have in Delta Force. I know Battlefield 2042 doesn't have skill-based matchmaking, but it doesn't really make sense in a combined arms game mode for a variety of different reasons, and I would love for it to not be included in the new Battlefield title to get those real only in Battlefield moments. Something else that would be nice is have a server browser, albeit I highly doubt this will be included into the actual game itself. I just like having a server browser, being able to see what map is being played and actually being able to pick which map I'm playing, as opposed to, possibly being thrown into a server with the same map that you had just played. I also want to see proper HUD customization options to reduce overall screen clutter if you choose. I'm the type of gamer that doesn't like to have the flag icons really big and really bright all over. I like to be able to see the map and to see where players might be and see shadows moving and pixels moving across my screen. It just helps me be able to see the enemies a lot easier if I can, reduce the overall opacity of those map icons or completely remove them when I'm aiming down sight. And finally, the ability to manually lean. Now, in past Battlefield titles, leaning has been like automatic, where you come up against a wall and if you aim down sight, he'll like automatically lean to the left or to the right. I don't even know if that was included in Battlefield 2042. I absolutely hate automatic leaning. It's just never consistent and never feels very good. I would much rather have the ability to do it myself when I want. So games that I've been playing recently, so Delta Force, BattleBit like last year, all have manual leaning, and then obviously all of the more tactical extraction looter shooters that I've played, Marauders, Tarkov, all have also manual leaning, so I've kind of grown accustomed to that overall quality of life improvement. So lastly, a few things that I'm still slightly worried about: the overall game performance. With all that destruction and seemingly increased visual fidelity, it makes me wonder how the game will run on a wide variety of hardware. So hopefully they get the actual optimization nailed down so it can run well on just a ton of systems. I do believe that the game not being launched on the previous console generation will help in this regard. They won't have to make it as many concessions as they did with Battlefield 2042. Next, the content or lack thereof. Albeit this Battlefield will have had one of the longest production cycles in probably over a decade, maybe even more, I still worry about there being too few maps, weapons, and such at launch. Hopefully they manage to deliver actual good maps in fair quantity, and same goes for the weapons. Then again, more weapons isn't always great as they end up feeling very samey, but I digress. Content. There needs to be a decent amount of content at launch, and then hopefully post-content support as well. And lastly, the ability to play with more than 3 friends to fill your squad. In past Battlefield titles, except Battlefield 2042 and Battlefield 5, you had the ability to party up with far more friends than just the ones that can fill up a squad. And I hope this will be available at launch, because in a game of this scale and player count per match, only being able to play with 3 friends was kind of a letdown. Now, in older games, it wasn't such an issue because you could join friends mid-match and even look at the servers that were active with your eyeballs and then see, oh, look, I have a friend playing on the server. I'll join this server and squad up with them, because they could just manage their squads, or you could make a squad together. And when we started playing Battlefield 2042 when it launched, oftentimes we were 4 to 5 people playing together, maybe even 6. And we're like, well, okay, 4 of us will stay together and the 2 of you, I guess, go play in another server or try and match at the same time as us so we can try and maybe play together. Anyways, it was a mess. It doesn't make sense. So that is pretty much all I have to say about the various leaks and footage that we've seen in the past few days, and also giving a few of my thoughts about what I would like to see in the next title and what I'm slightly worried about. All this being said, in general, I always like to err on the side of optimism, and so far, I'm liking what I see, but I won't have a real opinion about the game until getting the proverbial boots on the ground. Lastly, I have no doubt that EA and DICE were fully aware that footage would be shared, and that is probably part of their marketing strategy, considering none of them have been taken down, at least from what I've seen. Okay, so that's enough rambling for today. Let me know what you think of all the Battlefield footage we've been able to see. Does it look interesting? Do you think it's going to be a comeback for Battlefield? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.